Insurance would like to wish you and the special people in your life a happy and joyous Christmas.
1580 103.3 WPKY. Good morning. It's 8:11. Supposed to get cooler as the day goes on, not warmer, but it is the first day of winter, so what can you expect? 39 right now. We're joined this morning by Chip Hutcheson. Did I say that correctly? I was saying it incorrectly earlier.
No, you got it right, Misty. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Okay, glad to be here. Glad to, I was with you here a few weeks ago, and so glad to make a return visit.
Yes, I remember that. We talked about adoption.
We did?
I do remember that.
Yes.
It takes me a minute. You had to remind me, but I do remember it.
Well, you with all that you deal with, that's a great memory. So yes,
there are lots of guests, and I'm having so much fun meeting all these new people and learning all this new stuff. It's awesome. I just can't remember the names. Half the time, not even during the show, but give me 3 weeks and now.
Well, you're doing great, and I know the community certainly is glad that you are here.
Well, thank you, and I'm happy to be here. So what have we got to talk about this morning, Chip? We've got a lot of stuff to cover here.
When Audrey called me yesterday to see if I would be here this morning, she just left it wide open.
All
so
right.
I think we can talk. First of all, she did a story that's on your website about Ralph Sharp.
She did an awesome job on that story, by the way. I'm going to leave her a note on that.
Yes, she did. I took him the Kentucky Colonel plaque Wednesday, and Susan Campbell, as the story mentions, had been able to obtain that for Ralph. And so let me give you a little bit of a follow-up from that. He was overwhelmed when he got that. He just lowered his head and sat there and did not say anything for a few minutes.
Oh, wow.
But I think the reality of that really started to hit him about how significant that was. And I mentioned to him, there are a lot of us who are Kentucky Colonels because in years past, it was not too difficult to get to be named a Kentucky Colonel. However, about 5 years ago, that reality that it was becoming so commonplace, why they really started to limit the number of Kentucky Colonels. So those are not easy to obtain now. You go back 10 years and more ago, it was political favors that got it. So this is pretty significant, and it shows the community's support and appreciation for Ralph. It's amazing the people that I've talked to, not just from Princeton, but from other communities who know Ralph, who have seen him through sports and student programs, and their great admiration for him. So different doctors. He has a team of doctors that come in to see him because they're still working on his treatment options. He did begin radiation, had his first radiation treatment yesterday. But this team of doctors came in Wednesday afternoon, and one of those doctors was from Kentucky, and was very impressed and told all the other doctors, said, you don't know what this means in Kentucky. So he's had a great time showing that. Also, Eli Pepper, who's a Caldwell County graduate, plays basketball for Lipscomb. And Holly and Ben Van Hoosier got an autographed, really nice poster of the Lipscomb basketball seniors. There are 5 of them, and Eli is the middle player in that team, in that group photo. And they had Eli autograph that for Ralph. Ralph, hope you get well soon. See you soon. And so I took that to him as well. So he had a bunch of cards that Amy Birdsong's elementary school classroom did for him. He was very touched and continues to be very touched by the community's outpouring of support for him.
And right now, he's in Vanderbilt right now.
He is in Vanderbilt in room 11025. He is getting a number of visitors from Princeton, as well as transplanted Princetonians who live now in Nashville or in other areas who have been able to follow his situation on Facebook. And he is a very prolific Facebook poster.
He is.
So,
I've noticed that.
I noticed he just has something about their time to do blood work. So if you're on Facebook, you can certainly keep up with Ralph that way.
And you can know when when is a good time to go see him and when he's got stuff scheduled, because he'll put it on Facebook, right?
He will do that, and he does good about keeping people posted. He will have a series of radiation treatments. Looks like we'll probably stay at a facility there for a short term and be transported back and forth for some future radiation treatments. And then in all likelihood there will be a surgery somewhere down the road to treat this cancer. But he has been in really good spirits the last 2 days.
When did Ralph receive his diagnosis?
That diagnosis came back in the summer and began a series of visits and appointments at Vanderbilt. Also involved, the plan here about a month ago was to hand him off to Dr. Patel at Jenny Stewart at their cancer center, but then his situation deteriorated, so it was Dr. Patel in consultation with his doctors at Vanderbilt decided it'd be probably safer because he could stay inpatient there for a lengthy period of time.
I see. I have not yet got a chance to meet Ralph.
Okay.
I want to very much. I've heard so many things about him. And, I'm just sitting here thinking maybe I need to take a trip to Vanderbilt.
Well, he would certainly enjoy it. Of course, the biggest challenge to Vanderbilt is getting through all the traffic to get there.
Sure. Yeah, and especially at Christmas right now. I might not be able to get there, right?
Might not. I know when I went Wednesday, there were 2 wrecks en route that probably caused about a total of 30-minute delay, and you always encounter that. It seems like going to Nashville, but I will tell you, when he gets home, I'll make sure that he gets out here to see you.
Well, he said he will, and that's the only thing. Right, he was actually scheduled to come on the show,
right,
and ended up having to go to Vanderbilt, and he just hasn't been out since. And so, but he assures me that he wants to come out here, and he will make an effort, and I know he has, and I appreciate that. So
I think that was scheduled around December the 4th in that time period. That's when he went to Vanderbilt, which was just for a follow-up visit with his thoracic surgeon, and they saw his condition had worsened, so they decided to keep him. So that was not expected at that time that he would remain, but he's been there since that time.
Yeah, that's what he said. And he was supposed to be the Grand Marshal at the parade, and he had to miss that, and that was sad.
He's missed some things here, but it's amazing the people that I encounter. I talked to a gentleman in Hopkinsville last week, and was asking about Ralph, and he said, I met Ralph. My kids played soccer at UHA, and I met Ralph because he was taking pictures at soccer games. And so it's amazing the impact he's had on people.
Was he doing that for the paper?
Really, he was doing that more for himself and for the yearbook. He took pictures for the yearbook. You mentioned the paper. Todd Griffin did such a great job with all all sports pictures. So Ralph did that more than anything. And he'd like to give those pictures to the kids, to their parents, and also provide those for the yearbook.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I feel like I know Ralph. I'm not here all the time, but I've heard so much about him.
Right.
And he is such a strong presence in this community.
He is, and Ralph is not from here. He moved here, I believe, from Illinois. I remember when he moved here, he went to work for Dr. Doug Hooks, a veterinarian, worked there for a number of years. Then Doug and his family relocated to Hawaii, so that's going from Princeton to Hawaii. And so Ralph continued to work there, and then I hired him to work for the paper in 1993. And he had always, for at least the previous 4 or 5 years, he would show up at the paper because we went to the same church, and would just volunteer to help, just doing any little thing he could do, just because he wanted something to do. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I hired him to work at the paper. And I would say only my wife and a few other people know this. At that time in 1993, with the paper production process was different, and you physically had to produce a newspaper page, and then you would transport it to the printing plant, which was in Hopkinsville. So all the pages had to be there before they could print the newspaper. Now we do it electronically where
Digital.
that's not required. But at that time, you had to take those pages to the printing facility. And it was not unusual for me in those days to get a phone call on a Wednesday morning or a Saturday morning about 4 o'clock in the morning about, hey, the pages are not here. So I would have to get up and take those pages to Hopkinsville. Once I hired Ralph, I never got one of those calls. He is the most dependable person you will ever find, most committed to whatever he does. He would run through a wall for anyone. And so the comfort level that I had knowing I never had to worry about it. So from 1993 until I retired in 2017, that was never a problem. And so that meant the world to me.
Well, so, and when did Ralph leave the?
Ralph, his job actually ended with the sale of the newspaper.
Okay.
So he
was technically still employed.
He
up
was
until
employed.
a couple
He was
weeks
on
ago.
sick leave until that time.
I didn't realize that.
Then the new owners did not rehire him, deeming him, in their words, that he was medically unable to perform a job. So we're all the community and a bunch of friends and church members. I've gone to church with Ralph all these years. So the community, friends, church members are doing everything they can to help him out. So he's had great amount of support. I mentioned his church. He's been very active at Southside Baptist Church all these years. When he went to Vanderbilt, that caused him to miss a Sunday church service at Southside. First time in 35 years he had not been at Southside on a Sunday morning.
Oh, wow.
So he has some longevity record there. But when I went Wednesday, I also took him some DVDs of the Sunday church services, the morning and the evening, where he can watch those down there.
Okay. So just so I understand the situation, he was on sick leave from the paper, so he was still getting a paycheck.
Yes.
And
yes.
then when Paxton took over,
then
he
that
stopped,
paycheck
he stopped getting the
ends.
paychecks.
Right. So, but we're working, and I had some great progress yesterday in getting him some assistance, government assistance, and so I think we've got at least the medical insurance situation that is taken care of right now. So that's the big factor.
Sure. And he would have been in Vanderbilt when all that happened. So how did he
yes.
find out?
Mainly through me.
Yeah.
telling
okay.
him what's going on.
Okay.
And he understands. He's fine. And I think what I talk with him about, let's get this cancer taken care of, get your treatments, let's get healthy, and then we'll
Figure
go
the
from
rest
there.
out. Okay. So, and I think you had mentioned we might talk a little bit about the paper this morning.
Well, yes. More than anything, of course, my life, at least a good portion of my life, is invested in this newspaper, and great change. But there's great change in the industry. I regret that the paper did sell. But the entire corporation sold. That involved 5 newspapers plus the Fort Campbell Courier that is a government contract. Unfortunately, that's a sign of the times. I've seen more newspaper sales from especially family-owned or independent newspapers in the last, I would say, year than I've seen in the last 10 years. And in the industry, that's just unfortunately the way that it's going, that they're going to group newspapers. And I don't particularly agree with the way that groups, whether it be Paxton or other groups, how they operate. I've not seen. I know Civitas newspapers that their CEO is a good friend of mine. They owned 102 newspapers about 4 years ago. They're now out of business. Because the way that they try to operate newspapers. So for many communities, group ownership is not a good thing. Time will tell how it will play out here. I think we saw with the number of layoffs that were done the day after the sale here, very troubling to me because I hired all but one of those people.
Wow.
And the majority of them had worked for me more than 10 years. So, my heart goes out to them, and I'm trying to be of help and support to them. I will mention and I'm so thankful that Beth Mann had the foresight to hire Todd Griffin. I hired Todd as to work at the Times Leader in 1995. That time he had worked here at the radio some and was looking for a little bit something different to do, and actually hired him to work in our darkroom. And that was in the day when you still took pictures
Had
with
to actually
film
develop film,
and
huh?
had to develop the film and had to make the prints, and so it was a time-consuming job. Joey Randolph was the sports editor, and Todd and Joey were good friends, and he helped because of his love for sports. Just naturally helped Joey out. Then Joey and his wife, that great job opportunities in Evansville, so they left, and it was a natural to. It was the Lord taking care of me because it was a natural for Todd to do the sports. And I will say he's the best sports editor this community's ever had. And I was a sports editor at one time, but he was better than me. His photographic ability, the ability to take photos is unparalleled. His devotion and commitment to the youth and to this community is unparalleled. One of my favorite stories on Todd is, he didn't have journalistic training, but he learned on the job. And it's a great testimony that if you want to do something and you love what you do, you can do it well. And he certainly did that. Back in the 1990s, the New Era had a photographer, and that's all he did was take pictures, named Peter Wright. And Peter was a longtime Associated Press photographer. He had taken pictures at major news events all over the world and had retired to go home, take care of one of his parents. And they were at a baseball game over in Hopkinsville, regional baseball game. And so Peter saw Todd and was talking and said, and started asking technical questions about the camera. And Todd finally just looked at him, put his camera down and said, "Look, I don't know all this stuff. All I know is I get looking through the lens finder and I get the picture in focus, and I just take pictures. I don't know all that." But Todd has won several national newspaper awards for his photography.
Wow.
So it just
and
shows
doesn't know
you.
how to work a camera.
And he said, "I don't." And of course, over time, Todd's smart enough. He did learn all the particulars and all the little tricks and.
So he knows about ISO and f-stops now.
He knows all of those. At that time, he had enough knowledge just to get a good picture, and he has that God-given ability to have an eye for a photo that you cannot teach. It is intuitive, and but he has done such a great job. I had done a lot of football research in years past, and Todd picked that up and carried it even further. And wrote the book 100 Years of Tiger Football back in 2010. That is still a great book that chronicles Caldwell County football, its first 100 years. Has some great stories, and between us, he did the lion's share of the work. I gave him a good foundation to start with records back in the 1920s and 1930s. And he did such a fantastic job. So WPKY has a great asset in Todd, and I'm looking forward as you do things in the days ahead that people will really be amazed because his photos will be able to be posted on your website. He and I have talked. I know Beth, this is all, she's got so many plates to juggle right now, but there's a possibility there could be some sort of a printed piece in the months and years ahead. We'll just have to see. I don't want to put that burden on Beth right now, but Todd has great ideas, and so it will be a great blessing to WPKY and to the community to have him on board here.
Yeah, the general consensus is, everybody's very excited. For me personally, I'm extremely excited because he's taking over the sports here.
Right.
And I just don't do sports very well. I just don't. I mean, I love my job. I can deliver a news story, but I'm really bad at delivering sports, so I'm so glad that Todd's going to take that over.
Well, that's good, because you either love sports or it's just you can take it or leave it, and certainly he loves it. He will give a new dimension to sports coverage here because of the depth and because of his knowledge of the community. And there were times he would come to me if he was writing about something that happened, say, the 1960s, and he'd say, "Hey, do you remember? Is this right?" And he always had it right. But the biggest challenge arises in sports when you say this person did something that nobody else has done, or they're the first person since so-and-so to accomplish this. And so Todd has that what I call institutional knowledge, sports institutional knowledge that really very, very few people have. But he does love what he does, and that to me is the big key. He and I have had great times in the past. We go to some UK games. We went to a UK Vanderbilt basketball game years ago, and he was down the floor taking pictures, and I was sitting next to Kenny Skywalker, UK great of the 1980s, and so we've been to UK football and basketball games, and just had a great relationship. But certainly this is a win for the radio station. And another thing about Todd, no matter what's going on in his world, he's going to do his job. When his dad died, I immediately began to make arrangements to get the ball games covered. He said, "No, it'd be good for me to do that." So,
wow.
He's able to his commitment to the job, and while he has great love of family and those all those things that you want in a person, yet he has great commitment to what he has said he's going to do.
Well, like I said, everybody, the general consensus, everything I've heard is yay.
Yeah. I'll tell you one other thing. One of the things that really impresses me about Todd, and it is so rare in the sports world, but consider a football game and a player runs for a 70-yard touchdown. And you can look at it two ways. That was a great running play. Or you can look at it from the other side of the defender did not play very well. The defender made a mistake. Todd always looked for the positive, and he never looked for the negative. And when something happened, he pointed out the positive of it, and that is so crucial when you're reporting on youth and high school sports.
Exactly.
To look for the positive and to not demean somebody. And he had that knack. I know that I'm very sensitive to that. When my son played high school football here, and we played a game over at Fort Campbell, and Fort Campbell scored a touchdown on a play, and the New Era sports writer that time singled out, said that my son was a defender and the touchdown was scored on him. The reporter did not know that was not my son's responsibility. He just happened to be the closest to the play, and showed he didn't have a clue about how our defense was set up and aligned. But I thought, man, he just singled out my son as making a mistake on the play when it was not his responsibility. And so that really reinforced that idea of what Todd does, to not try to single out players, but to highlight the good that people do.
Right. Chip, we are going to have to take a break,
okay,
and we'll be right back and talk a little bit more about stuff going on with you.
Give joy, get joy at Kohl's. We've got your last-minute gifts. Stores are now open 24 hours through 6 p.m. Christmas Eve. Take an extra 15% off when you spend under $100, or take an extra 20% off when you spend $100 or more. And get Kohl's Cash. Short on time? Buy online. Free store pickup. Most orders ready in 2 hours. Give joy, get joy at Kohl's. Select styles, 15 and 20% offers valid December 9th through 24th with promo code SNOWMAN. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
We used to always argue about data.
She's always like, don't stream so many videos.
Now, thanks to Total Wireless, we get 50% more data. So, no more arguments.
What about data, at least?
Hey, bring your number to Total Wireless right now and get 50% more data. That means a family of 4 can get over 37 gigs of shared 4G LTE data for $25 per line per month. Total Wireless, total confidence. Ends January 2nd, 2019. Plans with data only. Excludes ports from TracFone Wireless Inc. brands. Terms at TotalWireless.com.
At 1580 103.3 WPKY, we're all about keeping you informed with 4 local newscasts every weekday. We've been informing Caldwell County since 1950 with local news, local sports, and local weather. We understand local because we're locally owned. We understand that local radio is the cornerstone of any vibrant community. We invite you to join us for local news each weekday at 6:30, 7:30, noon, and 5. We are committed to serving Caldwell County. We are 1580 103.3 WPKY. You can also find us at WPKYonline.com.
Don't use tires and wheels, where the customer is always number one. So when life's throwing you a number 2, just remember, Dunks Tires and Wheels, because we'll be here for you. We sell used custom wheels and tires and do plug and patch repair. We have all tread styles and sizes in stock. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5, and on call for emergencies. Call 270-963-6391. Dunks Used Tires and Wheels, where the customer is always number one.
U-Ride in Princeton is proud to sponsor the Sideline Report each Thursday on your hometown radio station, WPKY The Tiger. Go on out to U-Ride on Marion Road, ask for Dave's Deal of the Week. It's usually the Spotlight Vehicle of the Week, and it's waiting for you at U-Ride. Dave Harden is the sales manager at U-Ride. Go on out and ask to test drive Dave's Deal of the Week. It's at U-Ride on Marion Road in Princeton. Give them a call at 270-365-3018. U-Ride of Princeton.
All the hype of the holidays, and in a flash, it's gone. But what doesn't leave in any hurry are the extra bills and expenses you may have tallied up this season. If the financial excess of the holiday season has you worried, visit ABC Finance. Start the year in control of your finances with the help of ABC Finance. We offer loans from $500 to $12,000, plus no payment until February. Apply online at abcfinanceonline.com or stop by our locations on Fort Campbell Boulevard in Hopkinsville and the Princeton Plaza in Princeton. All the hype of the holidays, and in a flash, it's gone. But what doesn't leave in any hurry are the extra bills and expenses you may have tallied up this season. If the financial excess of the holiday season has you worried, visit ABC Finance. Start the year in control of your finances with the help of ABC Finance. We offer loans from $500 to $12,000, plus no payment until February. Apply online at abcfinanceonline.com or stop by our locations on Fort Campbell Boulevard in Hopkinsville and the Princeton Plaza in Princeton.
1580 103.3 WPKY. Good morning. It's 8:39. Still 39. It's going to drop, though. It's holding steady at that 38, 39. Going to drop to 36. It's nasty out there, been rainy. My guest here, I had not unlocked my door, and he was standing out there in the cold wind this morning, and I so very apologize for that. Chip Hutcheson, he's been talking to us about some things, and we're back to wrap up our discussion with him this morning.
Right. Let me hit Misty just a few things real quick.
Sure.
Going back to Ralph Sharp, I just looked at my phone. I've got a text message from Ralph. Enjoyed your talk about me. Thank you.
Aww.
So Ralph is listening to us. So
he listens regularly. He said he's got it on there at the hospital all the time.
Mention also, of course, we talked about sports. And Todd, a lot of people don't understand. I know you had the news this morning. Caldwell County's wrestlers are the 4-team tournament in Union County. When I heard the teams that are there, people from here need to realize Caldwell County is going to be with the very, very, very big dogs in wrestling in that tournament, Union County. One of the teams there is Father Ryan out of Nashville. And I saw Father Ryan a couple of weeks ago in a tournament in Louisville. We have a 16-year-old grandson that wrestles for St. X in Louisville, and they wrestled Father Ryan. There were teams from Ohio, Tennessee there, and Father Ryan is the real deal. So Caldwell will have his hands full at that tournament, but it'll be a great experience for them as they head toward the February state tournament. Misty, we talked for a minute. You said this is ugly sweater day.
It is.
I don't think your sweater's ugly.
Well, thank you,
I think it's fine. But I will mention a few little quips regarding Christmas. So the woman says, "Dear Santa, I'm requesting a big bank account and a small body. thank you for not mixing it up like you did last year.
That's right.
And then for those of you who are English grammar students, what do you call Santa's helpers? You call them subordinate clauses. So we'll finish with a little bit of humor there.
Thank you very much for sharing that, and thank you for the compliment on the sweater. But yeah, I'm not sure Snoopy with his big old beard is quite the not ugly sweater category. I don't know that you'd want to wear this to a business meeting anyway. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Chip, and we appreciate having you. We appreciate the updates on Ralph and everything else, the little history on the paper and Todd's time there, and very much appreciated you coming in today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
You have a Merry Christmas.
Yes, you too, and all of our listeners.
That's right. So Chip Hutcheson here today to talk to us about all sorts of things. We are going to have Nathan Austin next to talk to us about promoting Kentucky produced and created.
Give joy, get joy at Kohl's. We've got your last-minute gifts. Stores are now open 24 hours through 6 p.m. Christmas Eve. Take an extra 15% off when you spend under $100, or take an extra 20% off when you spend $100 or more. And get Kohl's Cash. Short on time? Buy online. Free store pickup. Most orders ready in 2 hours. Give joy, get joy at Kohl's.